Greetings, YouTube. Those folks that watched my handrail replacement video will remember my roof blew off. That lovely piece of crap right there, which is in horrible condition and rotted and heavy and just not what I need to use. So I have my ladder out already, and my wife was just nice enough to trim off this vine so they're out of my way. So I'm going to install a new roof on this. Unfortunately, I picked a day that's really windy. Now, those are not attached to that board except for some really janky screws. So I'm going to put some hangers on there to make that better connection. In addition, the beam itself doesn't appear to be all that well attached to the wall. So I got 4 new lag screws, which I'm going to drill through and mount it so it's more secure. Put hangers on all those, and then I'm going to put hangers on these. I think I got the right hangers for these to attach that angled 2x4 to the wall itself. I'm going to remove this middle one, and I'm going to keep it. I'm going to make a duplicate of it with a 2x4 I just purchased, and I am going to actually spread these apart slightly, and I'm going to tell you why. You're going to come walk with me. And there's all the crap that was inside my shed. That's where I kept the extra barrels and extra recycling bins, things like that. This is the new roofing material I've got. And there's the 2x4, a nice clean one. I got myself a piece of angle iron, which I'm going to use as a straight edge, so when I cut these things I can get them nice and even. And I'm going to sandwich these panels, which are a heavy-duty roofing material. They're kind of like the material that's over here, this kind of shingle material, but it's like a step above this. It's thicker and heavier than this stuff is. So it's like the most premium thickness of shingle you can have, except it's in a corrugated 4x8 sheet. So 4x79. So I'm going to even them up, and I'm going to cut pieces that are 52 inches long, which will give me a nice little overhang, not a huge one, a nice little overhang off the edge. And then I'm going to take the offcut as I join them together so that I can get them, facing the right way so that the rain will flow. And I'm going to have to separate them slightly so I can use the 2 pieces, the offcut, cut it in strips, and use those as 2 shingles to cover the gap in the middle. And I want the gap for 2 reasons. One, because you can't put them side by side and let me actually mount them into a 2x4 correctly. And I also want enough space so I can put my hand and my drill between the panels and drill them in place. And then I'm hoping I can very carefully get out on top of this without harming it or me, and drill down and screw down the panels. That's my goal. We're going to see if I can do it. If I can't do it, it may only be attached on the either ends. That's not ideal, but I'm not going to put myself at risk. So I've already got my tools out, got my drill and my drill bits and my extension cord and my saber saw and an angle. Got my sawhorses all ready to go. So the first job is to get all of the things that have to be reinforced, and get that middle beam out of there. But we're going to reinforce things first. So that's the next job up, is to get in there and reinforce things that I can safely remove this in the middle one without throwing off, the whole shebang, and hopefully make it strong enough that it's going to be less likely to blow apart come next storm. Now, I'm hoping also the wind dies down a little bit. It's a really blustery spring day. I also have to remove these, which are shelves. I'll be putting these back because they are useful. And what I'm going to do is also take that second piece of the offcut that I'm not going to be using to cover the gap and cut an angled section and cover up that hole. Because I think that hole is one of the reasons that the roof blew off. That the air was able to get through the whole process as opposed to just sliding over it. This gap was here. So hopefully that'll help solve the problem. And this place, this was not well constructed at all. It's horrible. Like, they still have, there are nails all over the ground in here. I've never been in here before without stuff in here. But they just, it's such a half-assed job. It's annoying. Oh, so I guess the next first thing is to take those out. Thankfully they're screwed in place, so I can just unscrew them and then screw them back later. Though I'll be using star drive instead of Phillips drill. I don't like Phillips screws, they strip out too easy. Alright, so next up, remove stuff and start reinforcing. Alright, I got this free here because I'm going to use this type of hanger, which hangs off of this and will allow me to both to secure it against the building and secure it with these 4 screws to the part, which is going to be a better attachment. This is not in great shape, but again, it's not holding a great load either. I had a screw here that I had to saw off because, again, they used Phillips heads. I hate Phillips heads almost as much as I hate ladders. I really despise being on ladders, and at the moment, I'm on a ladder. So, next step is going to be put this bracket in place, screw it down on the top, and once it's screwed in the top, then I will attach it to the 2x4 from the side. So that's my next goal. Yay for having goals. Woohoo! Alrighty, so there we go. This is now secured in place. I didn't have enough 2x4. They did not leave me enough 2x4 here to actually put this in properly. I would have liked to have fastened it there and have this on something. It's just hanging in space. But again, there's going to be a roof on this very shortly, and no one's ever going to see it except for me. So that is now in place. So I'm quite happy about that. So now I'm going to go back down the ladder, move the ladder over slightly because I'm too far away from this wall. I need to move the ladder 2 feet that way. And then put the bracket that I got on this one. I may be better on the inside, so I may want to move the ladder to the inside before I do that. I may want to be closer. So we'll see how that goes. I'll just go get the bracket. Pardon me. And give it a try. I am quite happy about, I think I just muffled the speaker, I apologize. I am quite happy that I have somebody to put my drill up here so I don't have to carry the drill up and down every single time. That's kind of a pain. So, get the next bracket, move the ladder over, and try the next step. Taking a lunch break. Mandarin would really like to partake of our food, but she can't. She's kind of annoyed at me. We have onion rings and veggies and such, and we're going to have burgers shortly. Hello! So, it's lunchtime now, and then back to work. Burger cam, lightly toasted bun with mustard, peppers, and tomatoes. Then we're going to have some fries. What do you got, dear?
I've got the same thing you've got, but I have avocado and fake cheese.
Fake cheese, because she doesn't eat real cheese. I don't like fake cheese much. There you go, folks. Burger ham. Alright, we're back outside. Lunch is done. And this is not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot more stable than it was. I'm only able to hold this bracket in 2 places, as opposed to it's got 5 holes like this does on this end. So this is not perfect. I'm hoping I can get some better purchase on the other ones. We're going to find out. But this thing was glued together so poorly. This is not the best wood, but again, I don't want to have to replace all of it. Important stuff. And so that one's done. So now we're going to do the next one and then 2 in the end, and then I'm going to bolt the whole thing to the building. All right, problem. I can't use this bracket in this application. I don't think I'm going to be able to use it on the middle ones. But if I just get an L bracket, and just one should do it, I think, on one side, it will give me the strength I need to keep this more stable. But I may be able to use this type of bracket on the last one down there. And if I can, I will. If I can't, again, I'll just go buy new L brackets, take these back. They're perfectly good, so I can get them returned. So next up is going to be move the ladder to the right and then work on that one to do the same thing I did on that one. Yay. Alrighty, so now I have the second one fully attached, and this one I can attach properly. So, 2 here, 2 here, there's 2 in the inside holding the bracket that way, and then there's 4 here, 2 on either side, so that holds this to the wall thoroughly. I'm going to go and take out that one. That's going to be my template for the next one. And then I'm going to do the same thing with those 2 down there. And my wife was just mentioning that if we have this attached here, can we just ignore the brackets down there? And while it will not be one cohesive structure tied together without those brackets, I do have one here already, so we're just gonna not worry about those brackets, return them, and not just move on with our day. So the next step is gonna move down and get rid of, actually I may hold off on that one. So put the brackets on those two first and then take out that one last. Hey, there's my chimney. A little chimney that goes in the garage, which is now useless. Have I mentioned how much I don't like being on ladders? I'm really high up. I'm not happy about this. And that screw right there, and that screw right there, I'm really hoping I can get those out, because the last two I had to cut off with hacksaws. I'm hoping I can get those without a hacksaw. Alright, I'm on the last 2x4 putting this bracket in, and this did not, I can't get it out, so I have to cut it off. There's a pain in the butt. Alright, last bracket is in, and like the first one, I can't do anything about it on that side. It just, there's nothing I can do. So it's held in here, here. There's 2 screws going in the center, and then I got 4 screws here holding this to the building. So it's far more secure than it was when I started. And my wife is currently trying to chase me down a drill bit, so I can drill a while up here, drill the hole, and then put the lag bolt into the building, which is my goal. So this is now going to be properly attached, because I'm eventually at some point today, if things work out the way I want them to, be actually trying to see if I can get those panels to support my weight. Yay! It's going to be fun on a slope like this. This may just not be a good idea. I'm just going to find out. And if I don't ever make a video again, you know how I died. Alright, I got the first 2 lag bolts in place. That one and this one. And I'm having to go old school because I don't have a socket that's large enough to go in that. I have a ratchet that's big enough. I just want a set of sockets. So I have to get a new set of sockets. Definitely. Time for a new set of sockets. Okay, we are at the cutting the panels portion, and this part on this side is going to be the offcut, and we have the 2x4 on the bottom, angle bracket on top, and a clamp on either side, and this whole thing is secure, and this 2x4 is sitting directly on one of the sawhorses. So this is pretty much as stable as I can get this to be, and now we're going to use my saber saw, and we're just going to run the saber saw along this here to make a nice straight cut, and hopefully nice even cut, because the ends are all evened up on that side. So that's the next step. Alrighty, well, saber saws don't work. We've actually done some research now. We didn't do before because I just thought you could cut this stuff like wood, but you can't. You actually have to use a carbide circular saw blade, which I don't own. And you can't use a handsaw, I just found out, because all it does is gum up the blade completely. So I'm going to have a heck of a time getting this thing clean. But you can use a utility knife if you want to cut it lengthwise. And we don't, at the moment, we don't want to cut it lengthwise. We want to cut it across. And the only tool we got is a utility knife. So I'm going to try cutting this with a utility knife. We still got it boarded together, and so this is going to give me my guide, so hopefully it'll be relatively straight. I don't know how long it's going to take, or even if I can do it. I am not happy. I am so tired and stressed that my brain is shutting down. So we'll get him to give it a shot. Okay, we have the first panel tacked in place on one side. Now we're going to cut the joists, and we're going to put the old joist back, and then we're going to try to get this panel tacked down on the other end. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it tacked down in the middle. Yeah, I'm drilling blind. The peaks and valleys in the panel don't line up with anything. I can't see what I'm doing. This is not a great process. Nothing's square. Nothing is square on that jet. Of course, there's Phillips screws everywhere. Okay, folks. Well, we've encountered a problem. To get this panel to be square to that 2x4, which is bolted to the wall with the lag bolts. This thing isn't even vaguely square. I got this thing, this new roof panel, all lined up with this outside edge, only discover that it was completely not square over there. So I get it square over there, and this edge here, it's parallel. Well, that up there is hanging over 3 inches. So this thing's out of 3 inches out of square in 52-inch run. That's stunning. So now I have to put a 2x4 support over there, nail that down hopefully, and then if we can today, before we lose the sun, get the next panel in place. And we still have the 2 middle panels to put in, and that's going to be just a pain in the butt. Okay, I'm up on top of this, and I finally got the screws in the center. So that's in the joist, that's in the joist, and that's in the joist. On 3 different sides of the same peak. These joists are not even close to being square to the building. I've had to goop up the holes I drilled, so hopefully they won't leak, with silicone. It's just horrible. And I have yet to figure out how I'm going to put the last panel in here. We're going to do the best we can. That's all I can do. Ah, this is a bit miserable and the sun's going down. Alrighty. It is the next day and not nighttime. And we have the 2 panels in place with the gap that I discussed earlier. And we're going to put shingles over it. But I was only able to attach these 2 ends with single fasteners because of the positioning they were in. So I went out and got myself a couple of plates here. I'm going to bend those into a right angle. And I'm going to mount them here and here to reinforce those so they don't go anywhere. And that's a pretty quick and easy solution. It's not going to be a big issue. And then I've realized that getting the 2 shingles into the 2 locations I need them, one here, which will come to about there, and then the other, which will slip under the top one and then go the rest of the way, is going to be extremely difficult to do because, again, I only have a gap to work with and I can't crawl on top of this roof. First of all, it's at a steep angle, and secondly, this stuff is not going to support our weight, and there aren't any structures in the middle, any support beams going this way, and frankly I just didn't want to put them in because this is a very light structure. It doesn't need to do much, but it just needs to shed the rain. And if you look up there in the corner, you can see the gap because nothing is on this thing is square. The ends, this end is in line with this. So this beam and this beam are parallel, probably only 2 parallel things on this entire structure, so that the spacing between these 2 panels is the same, so that one of the shingles I'm putting in will actually cover the gap. But the corner furthest away from me is up against the building, so the gap up there is a good 2 inches away from the building, so it's just amazingly unsquare. It really is. So first up is going to be bending these and then screwing them into place. Alrighty, so both the plates have now been bent and attached, and they aren't pretty, but by gosh and by golly, these things aren't going anywhere. And let's all hear it for the DeWalt right-angled bit, because that thing is just really useful. It was well worth the investment. I think it was like 20 or 25 bucks, something like that. Yeah, something like that. And it was very much worth the money because it allowed me to get into these very tight spots and to do things at right angles. I used it yesterday as well to do something. I can't remember what the heck I did yesterday, but yeah, I was using that yesterday to drill things in here. So the next step is going to be to have Lara help me bring this, because at the moment this is not attached in the middle, and we want it to be attached in the middle. So that one up there, I can see that one is, the valley is almost on top of it, so I can line that up myself pretty easy. But as you get down here, the beam, again, because nothing's square, this is not square to the building, it's not square to the wall it's attached to, nothing. I need help to get it lined up, and then we're just going to put silicone in any holes that we end up making, because I don't get it right on the first shot. There's a couple of holes down there the other end I have to do as well tomorrow. I mean, afterwards. Just silicone them up, because again, all this thing is doing is shedding water and snow. So the silicone will keep the water from getting inside here, and this is nothing out here is going to be, everything's like keeping barrels and lawn spreaders and an old rim I need to get repaired, and an old tire, which I haven't quite figured out what we're using for, but we have an old tire. But so we're getting there. And the other ones I'm not going to worry about. Those are the ones that the people that put this originally together did, and then we're just going to leave them like that. Screw it. It's not worth my time. I'm reinforcing this far more than they ever did. So it's going to be in better shape when I'm done than it was when I started. And that's what's important. So there you go. This section's done. Next up is going to be to tack down the center of this, and then to silicone all up the gaps, and then put in the last 2 shingles. And then we're going to call this good. Alrighty folks, this is the roof. It is not in great shape. I'm hoping it's waterproof. The fact that nothing on this structure is square was working against us. We have liquid nailed that thing down in the 2 panels in the center. We're hoping that works, and if it doesn't, well, I may be put into a position where this is going to have to be scrapped and we have to start from scratch, which I would like to avoid, because we know we've already sunk $100 into this, or $95 into this, plus our time. I can't even get more of this center section tacked down because I'm holding on to the roof with one hand and using a drill and a screw with the other, and hopefully, I got lucky. I hit the beam with one of those. I don't think I'm going to get that lucky again. So now I'm just going to get the silicone and goop up what I got up here that's got holes. I got a couple of holes down here. This one right there, that's a double hole. I'm not taking that screw out, I'm just going to goop over it. And then I'm going to call it good. And hopefully it will survive the next windstorm. And at some other later date, I will close up that triangular gap that I showed earlier in the video, but not today. I'm too tired. So I hope that you folks have found this interesting, because I've been cut and bruised, and I've got a blood blister, and I spent yesterday screaming and crying in terror, and because I'm on a ladder and the wind was blowing and trying to knock me off the ladder. So, and my wife got to stand around and watch me scream and cry in terror.
I think I didn't try to tell him to just stop.
Yeah, she did. She did try to tell me to stop, but not only am I terrified of ladders, but I'm also monumentally stubborn. It's one of my wonderful potpourri of traits. All right, folks. Hope you found this interesting, if nothing else, entertaining. That was not a really successful project. It wasn't successful for a number of reasons. One, we were given a significant handicap in the fact that nothing on that structure was square. I think I might have figured out what happened as far as the completely square process is. I think that if I'm looking at the foundation, they put lag bolts in the foundation when they poured the concrete. This is not an uncommon practice. And then you lay down your pressure-treated lumber on top of that to build your walls and such. But when you do that, you have to make sure that everything is square. And I don't think whoever did that part did. So when they started at the bottom, of course you build up, and the less square it is at the base, the worse it is at the top, because everything is going to be magnified the further you get away. So I think that's the reason nothing was square. Though why they couldn't actually put some of the beams going from the building to the outside wall square, I'm not quite sure. But they didn't. Maybe they didn't own a square. I don't know. We went with the material we chose, Odura, I think it's called, because we thought it would be stronger and it would wear better over time. And it allowed us to have a sheet because it was... we could cut it so that the rain would go in the right direction, because the sheet actually wasn't 4x8. If it was 4x8, I might have just considered slapping it down like it was and having the runnels going in the wrong direction, just because it would have been simpler. But those things would have been fairly heavy as a full 4x8 sheet of material. Even as a 4x4 sheet of material, even without wind running against us, we would have had a very difficult time getting it up there. So in retrospect, I would have preferred we had gone with the clear polycarbonate panels. Now they're only 3 feet wide, but they're 8 feet long exactly, whereas these things were only 79 inches long, which is not 8 feet. And that way we could have just taken 2 of these, no cutting, put one against the building, just tacked it in place against the building, then put the other one, and then bolted everything and screwed everything down on the edges, and probably been able to reach the first beam in, the center beam. I wouldn't have been able to reach it all. And it would have at least been closer to the building, even if it ended up not giving us perfect coverage out on the edge. I would have put up with that. It also means that if it was clear, I could see things, because I didn't ever occur to me that I'd be operating blind when I was trying to screw into those supports in the center of the panels. In retrospect, again, I didn't think this through. I've never done this kind of thing before, and I'd never worked with that material before. I think that this is just going to end up being a temporary project. That this will fail potentially very soon. We'll find out. It's going to rain tomorrow at the time of the filming of this video. And I did succeed in giving myself a blood blister, so that was fun. And if it fails, then we will rip it off and we will throw it away, and then we will get rid of all the fasteners that are in our way, and we'll put up polycarbonate sheeting, and we'll try it a second time and see if we do better at that job next time. And it'll have been a waste of materials, but we'll have learned that because we cannot access the long side of that shed because of those stupid bushes, we have to make sure that we work with material that, even though we can only access the ends. That's the only thing that we can reach. So we have to remember that. And I was hoping we could, but the bushes are too large. They're just too much in the way. There's no way to work around them or over them or through them or what have you. They're just a nightmare to work with. They're also always in my yard. If I could just take a lightsaber and go and make those things flush with that fence, I would be so happy. But I probably can't do that. So this is probably going to end up being a temporary project, and it was zero fun. When I was talking in that footage about being terrified and screaming in fear and crying in fear, that wasn't hyperbole. I was on that ladder screaming in terror because I was terrorized. I'm moving 4-foot square panels of this stuff in the wind, which means they were turning into sails. And they're moving while I'm trying to work with them. And I had to be the guy on the ladder because I was the only one that was tall enough and strong enough to do what had to get done. And we only have one ladder. We have a step stool, which allowed my wife to get in the inside of the shelter on the cement floor and help a good deal. But still, when it came to being from one of the ends, I was it. So it was no fun at all. And I was miserable to work with all day long. And I feel really bad about that fact. But there's nothing I can do about it. It's just the way it is. I don't like being on ladders. I don't have a fear of heights, amazingly enough. I don't. I would be at the top of the CN Tower, and I've looked straight down a quarter mile. No fear. I have a fear of falling. Well, technically, I have a fear of sudden deceleration syndrome. That stop when you hit the ground. That's what I have a fear of. And when I'm on that ladder with nothing behind me but air, and I'm 8 feet up, I'm terrified. So it wasn't something I want to do it again, and it looks like I may have to, because I don't think this project is actually going to survive. I guess we're going to find out. Maybe we'll get lucky. That would be nice. And if it lasts a year, we'll just chalk this up to live and learn. We now know that don't use this material in this application. There may be other applications where I can use this material. But this is not one of them. So Also, it would have been helpful if we had looked up how to cut it before we had to cut it, because that stuff was miserable to work with. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to get my handsaw clean. It's got the teeth are all gummed up. Maybe I can take a wire brush to them or something without hurting them. Because it's a nice pull cut Japanese style saw. I mean, it's an American saw, but it's that same style, and I really have to like the thing. So I'm going to see if I can save the teeth. Because I don't own a carbide blade for my circular saw. I guess I should probably invest in one of those, huh? So there you have it, folks. It was not a successful project. We'll see how long it lasts, and we'll keep you updated. And like I said, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. We'll see if it's a complete failure, because everything will get a shakedown as soon as the moisture begins to fall from the sky. So I apologize if that was an absolute waste of your time. And if nothing else, use me as an example. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I have done. Know your materials better. Pray you have better structures to work with. And plan better than we did. I guess that's the takeaway here, folks. Thanks for watching.